Um, the controversial term philo-Semitism arose as a pejorative in Germany to describe the positive prejudice towards Jews. In other words, a philo-Semite is a Jew lover or Jew friend. Concept of philo-Semitism is not new and arguably avowed by such thinkers of the 19th century. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who described himself as an anti-Semite. Philo-Semitism is an expression of a larger phenomenon of allophilia. Very few Jews live in East Asian countries, but Jews are viewed in an especially positive light in some of them, partly owing their shared wartime experience in the Second World War. Examples include South Korea, Japan, and China. That's really interesting that they said their shared wartime experiences in, and then mentioned South Korea, valid, China, valid, and also Japan. That's interesting. What? First of all, I don't think this entire group was on the same side during the Second World War. In general, Jews' stereotypic characteristics in South Korean culture are considered positive: intelligence, business savviness, and commitment to family values and responsibility. While in the Western world, the first two are aforementioned stereotypes more often have the negatively interpreted equivalents of guile and greed. In South Korean primary schools, the Talmud is mandatory. What? The Talmud is mandatory reading. Wait. What? I did not know that. According to Mary J. Ainsley, philo-Semitism in China is a part of the civilizationist narrative designed to position China as globally central and far superior. The Jewish Chronicle wrote, "Why South Koreans are in love with Judaism? Sales of the Talmud are soaring in Seoul, and it's not to do with religion. What the fuck?" I think philo-Semitism, especially in like America, is the exact same thing that I talk about with like liberals who overcorrect and are really weird around black people. Just be normal, okay? That's what I always say, and I will continue to say it. Just be fucking normal, dog. What the hell? Like, some Chinese people read the Talmud because they think it brings them good luck for money and business. That's awesome. I mean, it's definitely different for Asian countries than like in America, though. Here, let me find the Protocols of Zion story from Japan. Okay, I think this is it. So, pre-World War II, Captain Norihiro Yosue published the first translation of Protocols in Japanese. He was a Russian language specialist. He was assigned to the staff of General Gregory Semenov, a vehement anti-Semite who distributed copies of the protocols to all of his troops. Along with a few dozen other Japanese soldiers, Yosue read and accepted the premises of the protocols and contributed for a time to various anti-Semitic publications, including Kokusai Himitsu Ryoku no Kenkyu, Studies in the International Conspiracy. Under the pen name Ho Koshi, he later changed his views when in 1940 Japan signed the Tripartite Pact, which formally sealed Japan's alliance with Nazi Germany. His newly pro-Semitic stance led to his dismissal from the Japanese army. During the 1930s, Minetaro Yamanaka wrote stories about the Yudayaka, the Jewish peril. Oh, here, in 1936, they retranslated it. Oh, here. I guess this is like they wrote children's fiction about Jews. Superman of the Great Orient from August 1933 in the end of 1934, read mainly by Japanese boys between the ages of 8 to 12. The hero of the story is the detective Hongo Yoshiaku, who battles the villain Sekima, head of a shadowy Zion Alliance, a Jewish secret organization seeking to undermine the Japanese Empire. Yamanaka stopped writing with the surrender of Japan and continued reprinting these theories until the 1970s. Hold on. That's crazy, by the way, that they did it until the 1970s. Yamanaka stopped writing the surrender of Japan. Maybe that's why so many fucking weebs are so goddamn. I mean, so many Nazis are like filthy little weebs. In 1936, Nobutaka Shioden retranslated the protocols in the Japanese. Shioden had become fervent anti-Semite and a believer in Jewish conspiracy while he was studying in France. Oh, shocking. Shocking that the Japanese guy became a virulent anti-Semite in none other than France. When he returned to Japan, he became the leading voice of anti-Semitic propaganda. I want to know about philo-Semitism in Japan, not anti-Semitism in Japan. Yasutani was well known to have been a friend and mentor of the Nazi propagandist Durkheim. Victoria feels that Japanese anti-Semitism evolved independently from the heart of the homegrown reactionary social role that institutional Buddhism played in the Japanese society during the Meiji period. Yeah, this is all just like. According to the ADL telephone survey of 500 people, 23% of the adult population in Japan harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Jesus Christ. Study reveals that 46% of the population agree with the sentiment. Jews think they are better than the other people, and that almost half of the respondents think Jews are more loyal to Israel than Japan. How many Jewish people live in fucking Japan, dog? What is he talking about? They are there are 300 Jewish people in Japan. That's insane. Oh my God, there's a Jewish community center in Tokyo. I did not even know that. Community then consisting of at least 3 permanent families was displaced by Shimazu forces. The Jews of Setsu absorbed some of them into his own community at the time. This is also why you see the rise in anti-Semitism and other xenophobic nationalist sentiment in the end of the colonial era and global South nations. I don't think it's reliable. The 500-person surveys, I don't know how great the sourcing on that is. What? The streamer is Jewish in Japan? He was born there too. Watch this hilarious clip of him. Is he Japanese? That's wild. There's more than 300 Jewish folk in one street in New York. Yeah, of course, dude. New York is the largest Jewish city on the planet. Cash me out, Japanese Jewish guy. That's sick. This video covers a Jewish folk song that's big in Japan. What?
It was the summer of 2006, and my Japanese host mother and I had just returned from a day out in the sweltering Matsuyama sun. We'd done some shopping, met with some of her family, and we'd also stopped off at a video rental store. A pretty standard day in the life of a high school exchange student during the endless days of Japanese summer. Disney, Ghibli's US distributor, seemed to have no interest in releasing Takahata Isao's 1991 contemplative drama Only Yesterday. The film had been Japan's biggest box office draw in the year of its release, but it was assumed Disney believed this long, down-to-earth slice-of-life picture to be unmarketable. The fact that there's an entire section focusing on an elementary school class coming to terms with learning about menstruation probably didn't help things. At 16, I was already a huge Ghibli fan, and if you can't already tell, a pretty big geek. I plopped down in front of the Kuramoto family CRT, overjoyed at finally being able to see this elusive film. Soon,
This stream would be so ass without Hasan's ADHD. Yeah, dude, we just like jumped from thing to thing so much, but anyway, this is it. This is what I was talking about. Okay. During the Russian Civil War, forces loyal to the deposed Tsar found themselves fighting alongside the Japanese and introduced them the protocols of Elders of Zion. This notorious anti-Semitic forgery would in turn shape a generation of imperial Japanese officers thinking about Jews, convinced that it could use the Jews' supposed global power, wealth, and shrewdness to its own ends. Japan eventually hatched a scheme to create a Jewish state in Manchuria. Dara Horn tells the story, replete with bizarre twists and turns, and explains what it says about the strange role Jews can play in non-Jewish imagination, which often have little to do with Jews themselves. Okay, that's it. That's what I was trying to find. It is one of, in my opinion, something that Felix talks about all the time. It's one of my favorite stories that Japanese people so far removed from like Judaism, have no idea what the fuck it is, are encountered with like obviously the most notorious racist depiction of vile anti-Semitism, and they go, what are you guys doing? Why wouldn't you want to use their Jew power? I don't understand. It's like they were looking at this like, you guys are so dumb. You fucked up. Like, what you want to kill these guys? Like, I don't understand. This is incredible power. Which is awesome. Yeah. And I guess like there is some Felix talks about this more extensively, but there's like some like goblins and like mythological figures from Jewish folklore that have like made its way into popular Japanese culture too. Like golems. Not goblins, golems. It's just phenomenal to think about like how wait, how do I oh god, I don't want to register. The thin line between philo-Semitism and anti-Semitism in 20th century Japan. I think, yeah, European anti-Semitism. Jews are ancient wizards that can control your mind. We must stop them. Japanese anti-Semitism. Jews are ancient wizards that can control your mind. We must harness that power. That is sick. And it is fascinating when you think about it. It's like, there's also like Jewish Chinese people too. Tokyo documents of 30s relate plans for resettling Jews in Asia. Yeah, high Tokyo officials disclosed a plan that existed in the years before the 1941 attack to enlist skills and financial resources of persecuted Jews in Europe to rescue them from the Nazis and to establish Israel in Japan's conquered territory of Manchuria. It's just so funny. Like, anyway, philo-Semitism and anti-Semitism in Asian countries are very funny. And like, this is what I was talking about with respect to how different countries or different regions around the planet have very different interpretations of one of the oldest forms of bigotry, like the OG form of bigotry. Japanese military and industrialists devised in 1934 what became to be known as the Fugu Plan. Its initial goal was to invite 50,000 German Jews to settle in Manchukuo, as the Japanese called Manchuria. The 50,000 Jews were to serve as a vanguard for as many as 1,000,000. Look at this. Under the plan, the Jews were to build the wilderness region in an independent state, turn it into a buffer against the Soviet Union, and attract America's sympathy and investments. Yeah. It's funny to turn Jews as a buffer against the Soviet Union. I guess, like, you know, not realizing that, not realizing how the tide turned. Like, where they ended up on the World War II equation and where the USSR ended up on that same dynamic. But to be fair, their anti-Semitism at the time was directly informed by the protocols of Zion and also Russian anti-Semitism. And obviously, pre-USSR Russia, very anti-Semitic. Very, very anti-Semitic. So they probably thought, oh, we can use the German Jews against these Russian guys who are obviously also very anti-Semitic. Anyway. This is crazy, man. Yeah. It's crazy people can have such contrasting reactions to identical assertions. Yeah. In order to understand the Japanese approach to Jews, a few years ago, we were visited by a senior Japanese delegation, Ben Ami Shiloni, the book's author says. After the meal, the leader of the group stood up, thanked the host, and said that he and the other members of the delegation knew very little about Jews in Israel before the trip. In preparation, they searched for a book on the subject, and after reading it, they felt that they now understand Israel's success and the special position Jews hold. He then drew the book from his pocket and gave it to us as a gift. It was the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This shows that the classic anti-Semitic literature is seen by the Japanese as a model for success and imitation. In essence, they draw counterintuitive conclusions regarding the Jews and how to relate to them. It's so awesome. It's so sick. They read like the OG anti-Semitic script and were like, these guys are fucking dope, dog. What are we doing? They saw it as a pro-Jewish text. Yeah, no, they literally looked at it. They were like, yeah, Jews control the world. Very inspiring. We must learn from them. Straight up. They were like, they couldn't, dude. I just told you they had a plan to literally take German Jews and put them in Manchuria because they were like, these are blessed people. Like, they're so powerful. We'll just give them, like, I guess they were just like, yeah, we'll just feed them babies or something. You know what I mean? Every now and then. But like, we want to use their power. Like, we want to use their awesome power in world domination to our benefit. Yeah. This is what I was trying to find desperately. It's a really funny. It's just really fucking funny, in my opinion, to get, you know, to look at this idea of like one of the most foundational anti-Semitic scripts and just be and have such a drastically different interpretation. You know? Yeah, he went and he found they even went and found rabbis, I guess, but Rabbi Wise in New York at the request of Lou Zickman, a Jewish industrialist in Manchuria. But Rabbi Wise offered him no encouragement, citing Japan's militarism and mistreatment of conquered people. Later, in June 1940, Rabbi Wise indicated to Jewish leaders in Tokyo that he might consider the Japanese settlement plan if the State Department approved. But war in Europe and growing tensions between Japan and the United States ruled out such a possibility. Yeah. We cannot afford to alienate the Jews. If Japan imitates Germany's severe control of the Jews, discrimination will develop in connection with our foreign trade. On the other hand, if Japan goes in the opposite direction and befriends the Jews, entirely new economic possibilities will be open to us. Wait. Oh, this was the finance and commerce minister, I think. No. Yeah, we started off with reading the anti-Semitism in Japan, and now we're talking about the philo-Semitism in Japan. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Japan, a country with 300 to 2,000 Jews. And I guess like also South Korea as well. But I like South Korea probably missionaries, right? I suspect. Like I assume that like South Korea's fascination yeah, it's Christianity brought to its shores missionaries in the late 1800s. Official statistics say some 30% of South Koreans are church going. The Talmud is a bestseller in South Korea. Even the government insists it is good for you and has included it on the curriculum for primary school children. I thought there was like a way to read the Talmud. It's not even like in book form or whatever, but instead you got to open it up and like discourse it. No? Like I don't even think Jews just sit around and like read the Talmud at all. Like that's not like a thing. Yeah, the Talmud is several dozens of books. How do Koreans store all of that? That's the Tanakh. It's dialectical. It's not a storybook. It's like case law for Judaism. What? Origins of the anti-Semitic anime inspired by Donald Trump? Oh God, I don't even want to. This is like, I feel like this is gross American dweebs. Okay, this is not like the fun, cool. Wait, oh, isn't it? Maybe it's not. In his piece, Michelson drew anti-Semitic context from the anime series itself. Neon Genesis Evangelion symbolized the war against insidious global Jewish conspiracy, epitomizing the series of evil organization SEAL. Also, someone who also grew up in Japan, I was curious about Michelson's conclusions. No secret that since the protocols of Elder Zion arrived in Japanese-ruled territories in the early 20th century, some Japanese attitudes towards Jews stem from anti-Semitic tropes of Jewish power, money, and control, but in a decidedly positive way. See, this guy, yeah, this guy's right. Anthony Berthaud. Talmud is just rabbis hundreds of years apart discussing Judaism. You are thinking of the holy book Torah. No. No, I'm talking about the Talmud, which is just like guidelines, right? It's not a codified law, it's a commentary on the Mishnah, which is the oral Torah. There are different rabbinical opinions and commentaries in there that often disagree. Yeah, and you don't just like sit down and read it, right? I thought you like I forget who told me this, but I thought you like discourse it. Like you do like debate. Like you don't actually sit down, open it up and go, these are the rules, let's follow it. It's more so piece by piece you engage in like an interpretation. This is a lot of what happens in yeshivas. You are correct. Yeah. And it's like it's also one of the things like whenever someone starts mentioning the Talmud as though it like is it's just suspicious. It raises alarm bells in my head, at least, when I hear about someone talking about the Talmud being like a really formative and important script that Jews follow to a T or something. It's like, it's a little immediate red flag that someone is being anti-Semitic. It's like the same principle behind being like, Muhammad had a 9-year-old girlfriend. Like, okay, dude, sure. All right, shut the fuck up. Move on. Or like it's pack it up. Pack it up. You're gross. You're not doing you're not doing any sort of like real religious criticism. Like we've moved beyond the boundaries of theology. Okay? You're just fucking being a piece of shit. That isn't true, is it? Dude, I don't fucking know. I don't give a shit. I mean, dude, what are you talking about? Like, God literally, okay, God fucked Jesus's mom. How old was she? You know what I mean? It's just fucking religion. And like, yeah, historical figures weren't, doing great stuff, I guess. Wait till y'all hear about Zeus. No, you don't understand. Those are like white facing religions. So like obviously that's not the same. Anyway. All right. The fascination with Judaism does not end there. Media outlets regularly run newspaper columns on Jewish education, weekly radio features, and television documentaries, all of them showing Jews in a glowing light. But although average Koreans can boast that their bookshelves hold at least 1 or 2 copies of the Talmud, to think of Korea as a hotbed of latent Judaism would be wrong. The motivation is less to do with religion and more to do with aspiration. Korean parents value schooling above all else. Parents send their children to after-school crammers until midnight. And shy of good role models on the quest to securing academic success of their offsprings, mothers almost unerringly turn to the Jews for inspiration. Mother of two Lee San-suk explains that the way Jewish children are brought up universally viewed as a positive in Korea. The stereotype of Jews here is that they're ultra intelligent people. Dude, it's so funny. They're like, yeah, they're the secret special boys. And they're intelligent and they're good with money and we should be like them. No, it's not even overcompensating. I'm telling you, it's literally like it's like is this propaganda or guilt for World War II? Why the fuck would the Koreans have guilt for World War II? That's not what I no, that's not it at all. it's to varying degrees of like to varying degrees of like thinking Jews are different than like other people, like other white people. And thinking that like, you know, Jews are historically like a different sect of white, a different kind of white. And it aligns with their values. Like the way that they see Jews is like um I mean it's basically a different version of like what we just read about with respect to the Japanese reading the protocols of Zion and going, "Oh my god, these guys are fucking sick." Like, what? They have so much special powers. Like, we have to help them and capture that power and use it for our own benefit. It's kind of like that, but like a lighter version of that. One wannabe Jew. What the fuck? Goddamn. JC, that is fucking 38-year-old Park Johan has handed in his notice at an investment bank to take a plunge into Judaism. He says he will go to New York, where he knows nobody, has no job prospects, just to follow his dream of Orthodox conversion. Now that is a motherfucker I want to know what I want to follow his life. I want to know what happened to this guy. That's awesome. He skipped a step. By the way, notice how he didn't say, I want to do a pilgrimage to Israel, and instead said, I'm going to do a pilgrimage to, to New York. That's right, baby. That's right. Say it loud and say it proud, okay? Bro, this is so insane. My culture is not your costume. I think it's so, wait, first of all, he skipped steps. He's not even like, oh, I'm going to convert to Judaism and then I'm going to be like, I guess it would be really funny if someone was like, I am going to literally take on the arduous task of converting to Judaism and then be like a secular Jew. That would be funny as well. But he's just like, he's going up. He's like, I'm going to be Orthodox. I've tried just about everything. Converting in Korea isn't difficult. It's impossible. Jewish observance in Seoul is almost entirely centered on Friday night service in the back of a Christian chapel in the U.S. Army base. Every night, the tiny congregation of expats and local flip pews containing hymns, hymn books, and New Testaments to face a pokey little ark for prayers. At the end of the night, everything gets put back in place for Friday night mass. If there was if there was not a small ner tamid hanging above the ark, you really would mistake it for a cupboard. Most of the regular and long-serving members of the congregation are non-Jewish Koreans, civil servants, doctors, and politicians from the ruling party who's currently squeezing his attendance between bouts of campaigning for local elections. They have no wish to convert, but they take their interest in Judaism seriously. Most boast impressive collections of Judaica and read Hebrew fluently. What the fuck? Among their number is a living legend of Korean Jewry, Abraham Cha, one of the few Koreans who have actually converted. He is a regular fixture at the U.S. Army Base Services. An old man now, he still cuts a memorable figure. He has a wild beard, payot, zit, protruding proudly, and maintains an unrivaled personal library of Jewish books from all around the world, which he painstakingly collected. Shaw says he had to give up everything to become an observant Jew in Korea. My family don't speak to me anymore. I had to divorce my wife. I even had to stop working because they wouldn't give me the day off on Shabbat or on Jewish holidays. My bosses couldn't conceive what it meant to be Jewish. Although precisely what it involves to be a Jew eludes most Koreans, anti-Jewish feeling is almost unthinkable in this part of the world. except for the fact that there's also like literally a Nazi bar. If you remember in South Korea, there's just like a straight up bar dedicated. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, it's like a dive bar for fascists. Like, no, I mean like an Adolf Hitler bar where you can take like, you know, gobble shots and shit like that, which is insane. Like, it's a themed bar named the Third Reich. Yeah, and I think it was closed recently. Now the real question is he willing to undergo an adult brie? Okay. I mean, probably did. Says Seoul resident Naomi Zaslaw, if you refuse a plate of pork ribs here because people will be dumbfounded. If you tell them it's because you're Jewish, they'll unfailingly look impressed and say, "Oh, you must be very clever." It also, Korean food is a banger. I didn't even realize that brie, it's bris. Sorry, it's sünnet in Turkish and in Islam. Bris, not brie. Um, who seems for a religion this hard? Dude, I don't even know. Brie cheese. HasanAbi, this is also reflected in the Korean community of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Every neighborhood Jews lived in, Koreans will follow them. Wait, what? Wait, do South Koreans get circumcised? I don't think so, right? No. Like, Americans all get circumcised. It's one of the few Christian nations that does it, but oh my God, they do? Christian ones, maybe, but that doesn't make sense. Christianity does not have circumcision, chat. The fuck are you talking about? America is one of the very few. Chat. America is one of the very few Christian nations where there's mass circumcision. And Korea's adoption of circumcision probably comes from America. It's the only non-Muslim country in East Asia that does it besides the Philippines is cultural. That's wild. Christians still do it. There's a few in the UK. I thought Europeans are not circed up. The Europeans are not circed up. Korea is a client state, so it makes sense. I mean, yeah. Sarked up is a crazy thing to say. Listen, bro, I can say it, okay? Sorry, RIP to my foreskin, if you know what I mean. Listen, brother, it's my word, okay? Taking the hood out of a man, literally, yeah. A little baby. Are you sarked up or not? Yes. Genuine question, why are you circumcised? Well, I'm Muslim. Chatter's finding out that Muslims and Jews get circed up. 85% circed up shorties in Korea. 85%? That's crazy. Goddamn. Prevalence of circumcision. Yeah, widespread near universal, widespread common, 20 to 80%. Okay, 20 to 80% is fucking insane. And then uncommon. Yeah, it's like Christian nations, uncommon with the exception of America and America's hat, Canada, and also America, but on the other side. It's not common in Australia. I guess like they're saying widespread is 20%. I'll never understand Hassan's obsession with circumcision. Yeah, if they took something from you in childbirth, you would also fucking, work your whole life to get it back. Classic HasanAbi moment, stream title versus screen topic. I'm just saying, I'm uncovering important news. Like, what do you mean? Give me a break. I got my back grind harder, bud.